Well, welcome back. It's January 8th, 2023. A snowstorm is beginning here in Rural Retreat, Virginia. It's supposed to get 6 to 10, maybe 12 inches over the next 24 hours. Work is canceled tomorrow, so I thought I'd sit here on the porch, watch the snow, and let's look at some old magazines. Let's see what we got here. Huh. I remember buying this back when I was like in fourth grade. We were talking yesterday about the nostalgia boom in the 1970s for the 1930s. I guess people that were in their 40s in the 1970s were nostalgic for their childhood in the 1930s. Okay, so that would make them in their 50s. And then there was another group of people in the 1970s. Let's see. That were probably in their 30s, early 40s, that were nostalgic for the 1950s. So, the 1950s nostalgia boom in the 1970s started with Shauna Na performing at Woodstock, and the hippies at first didn't know what to think of this group up there doing 1950s music, and then they loosened up and got, because the hippies really don't like the 50s. And then that was followed up by American Graffiti and Happy Days and a whole lot of that stuff. But there was also a big nostalgia boom for the 1930s, and in the 70s they brought back this magazine, Liberty. And I have several of the issues. They're in another box. I need to put this with the other ones. Marvel put out a magazine called Nostalgia Illustrated. This is just like, oh, my wife's calling, man. I better go see what's up with her. Happens every time I start a show, she calls. But anyway, this is a lot of this is reprints of old articles from Liberty. This one's from 1925, and you can get a calendar, a 1937 calendar that has the exact same dates for 1976. I'll show you more of this. Hold on. Let me go see what she needs. I can't call her back because I'm recording on my phone. Let me go see what she's up to. I got to walk up 3 flights of stairs to talk to her, but I'll be right back. Enjoy the snow.
So mysterious, so unbelievable, that I cannot even tell you what it is. And until I have found this trophy, my friends, I shall be unable to return. This means, of course, that we shall have to bring our Saturday night meetings to an end, at least for now. But now that you have seen my hobby and the magnitude of it, I am sure you will understand. I feel on this our last meeting for a while, I must also confide in you certain secrets. Many of the things we've seen on our regular visits have been real and genuine. Some of them have not, but have been only illusions which I have attempted to create to help you capture the actual feeling of horror. Let me explain what I mean. Ambrose, from here. Ambrose, my friends, is not really an afflicted and simple man, but he's a very bright an intelligent and loyal assistant of mine. He has effected his role to help you to capture the rule of order. And in the coffin, not really a corpse at all, but Miss Lynn, a warm and living human being who helps us out weekly in our little escapades. And in the mummy case, not really the mummy advice. Where the real mummy is, I do not know. But to help you feel as though you had been to Egypt, we have called upon Mr. Carr for his services.
Oh, no.
And in the laboratory, you thought you saw the Frankenstein monster. Actually, my friend was only a man in a mask. Remove the mask and show him.
Just a minute, guys.
I say to remove the mask and show him it is only a trick. Remove the mask. My friends, I do not understand. It is only an illusion. Stop it, this instant. I demand, I command you to stop. My good friends, goodbye. Sleep well and have pleasant dreams.
The live portions of Nightmare originated in the dark corners of KFJZ TV. Please, gentlemen, are responsible.
Oh. All right. Shoot. Yeah. What did I miss, man? It's like, why don't you edit out these parts where you disappear? Because I don't know how, man. If I was professional, I wouldn't be on YouTube. I'd be on a real network, ladies and gentlemen. So, Liberty. No. Liberty was a magazine in the 1930s. My father used to deliver Liberty or something. I remember he told me when he was a kid. But I thought this was neat as a fourth grader. This is fall 1975. But I bought this when I was still in San Antonio. We moved from San Antonio to Tacoma, Washington in the summer of 75. And this is dated fall 75, so it's dated ahead. You know how they do it. Well, it's just reprints of old. I think isn't there new stuff in here too? They even reprint old ads. It's a neat thing for the 1970s. Person that's say either the bicentennial. Boy, the bicentennial was something. Wow. You imagine having this particular phone today, what people would think of you. You would be politically incorrect. There's James Cagney and Jean Harlow. Yeah, I don't know how many issues they put out of this new Liberty, but I thought it was a pretty neat thing. Having not been alive yet in the 1930s, this is how do they? Volume 1, number 18. So, fall 75. So, yeah. And they have, movies that would have, of course, that would appeal to this crowd. I think I've got 3 or 4 issues of this. One has a Charles Schulz cover, and it has all about the history of comic strips. I think that was the first one I got. And I think I've shown you that before, but when I find it, I'll show it to you again. Right, Drew? Here's a Montgomery Ward catalog. My brother used to call it Monkey Wards. Let's see. It's from fall and winter 1972. When you could get curtains that look like that. Oh, yeah. Before there was VHS, you had Super 8. Sometimes you could find these old catalogs, and perhaps that's Mr. Montgomery Ward. You know, I guess I figured that there was a guy named Montgomery and a guy named Ward, and it was like their names combined. I didn't realize the first name of the guy was Montgomery and last name was Ward. Right, Drew the dog? Here's a whole bunch of trusses. Those are for people that have had a hernia. Is that what that is? Strong support for single or double hard to hold hernia. I guess they didn't do hernia surgeries then. And Drew, don't eat those roller skates from 1950s over there. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. Drew, stop licking everything. I put your food over there, man. That was another thing. It was cool to take the doors off inside your house and install these saloon doors. That was that musty smell of that catalog is quite wonderful. Let me make sure she knows she's been fed. She's like, you ever see the movie Pink Flamingos? Remember how they would lick everything in the house? That's what she's doing right now. Okay, Drew, come here. Drew, pood. Your pood is here. All right, see it there? How dare you?
How can they stop this invisible force whose only warning is a weird, blood-chilling sound?
I have to call it pood because my wife calls it pood, and so Drew is not learning proper English. Drew the dog is learning that the word is pood, not food. But I'll go along with it. Here's your gun racks. Where are the toys, man? 1970s bedspreads. Oh, console stereos. They're coming back into vogue. If you have an old console stereo, don't throw it away, because people are starting to become really excited about these old console stereos. I mean, they're not easy to transport, but for years people thought they were worthless, and now people are realizing, hey, it sure sounds a lot better than music coming out of your phone. Man, I think this chair is right about 20 feet away from me. My father, one of them didn't come in the move. They left one behind, but they brought one. They were in my father's office when he had a real estate office. He had two. I think they were yellow chairs, and he reupholstered them brown. Where are the toys? Montgomery Ward, maybe they didn't have toys in their catalog. So, from 1930s nostalgia to 1972 nostalgia. How's the snow coming? I don't think it's still snowing a little. You can't really see it. Earlier it had really big flakes. The problem is I think it's still about 33 degrees. And then when it gets down to 32, around 5 o'clock right now it is, heck, I don't know what time it is. I've got a clock over there. I doubt it's accurate. It will, then it will, look at this, man. You can dress your toddlers like this. Yes, indeed. Yes. I don't think there's toys at Montgomery Ward. This jacket is my brother, my oldest brother's. This is probably from 1972, but it was in a closet, and I thought that's a cool looking jacket, Just, um, you know, kind of looks like Miss Maisel. It's going to be the new Lois Lane. I have optimistic. A lot of people online are really pessimistic about James Gunn taking over the DC movies. I'm actually very optimistic. I think he's going to do well. But I'm not really thrilled that he's. I don't know. Tell me more about Guy Gardner. I was not reading the Green Lantern comics then. I wish he would use Hal Jordan, but oh well. He's putting Metamorpho in the Superman movie. Looks more promising. It's a Western Auto catalog from 1968-69 fall and winter, when you could equip your living room like that. Come on, Snow, be more spectacular. It's a ping pong table. Are there toys in Western Auto? Oh, there are some toys. Revelation. BB and pellet rifles. Pretty cool. Back before they put little pink or red tips on all the toy guns. Man, I wish I had a pool table. I have room for a pool table, but I can't afford that. In Joe Biden's America, and his spikes. Here's real guns. Western Auto is not just a car parts store. What? Here's a polychord electric organ, $21.66. Some dolls, but they don't have a big toy selection. There's a tricycle. Chainsaws, heaters. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm putting all these catalogs into some boxes upstairs. Ooh. How about these arrangements? That was pretty expensive, man. Ooh, that's cool. Look at that. This is a coffee or end table where it has a hidden stereo in it. Cool stuff, man. Well, let's see what else we got. Montgomery Ward, Western Auto. Here's another Montgomery Ward catalog. It's 1974 fall and winter. Ooh, CB radios were already hitting the scene, but I don't think they became a big deal until about 75, 76. Yes, indeed. You know, I never saw anyone dressed like this, but, you know, I don't know. She looks like Snow White or something. But then I used to say that when I watched the Brady Bunch. I said, these kids dress in a way that I don't see kids at school dress. But I don't know. Then I look at the old class photos from elementary school, and some of the kids do kind of look like the Brady Bunch. Look at this girl with all her flower pattern there. How about that? Yes, indeed. Yeah, this. Let me double check. Yeah, J.C. Penney's is not delivering with toys. But when I think back on J.C. Penney, they didn't really have a toy department. It wasn't like Sears, where. Yeah. Look at this outfit. Oh well. Disappointment. Heartbreak. Well, this isn't going to be any better. The J.C. Penney catalog from 1999. In fact, nothing good came out of the 1990s, did it? Yeah, it just looks like today to me. I mean, what's the difference between 1999 and today? Let me see. Maybe I can spot a difference. But to me, you know, it used to be each decade had a very distinctive look and fashion and music. And, you know, the 1920s is very different from the 1930s. And that's different from the 40s. And that's different from the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s. But then from the 1990s on, it's hard for me to distinguish any difference. I mean, don't kids look like that now? I mean, there's nothing. I'm not like looking at it and laughing and thinking, boy, look how crazy people look back in 1999. It just looks like today. No difference really. Yeah, I guess that's when the Marxists started taking over and started making everything ugly and bland. It's all part of their evil plan. Enough of that. 1999, indeed. No offense if you were born in 1999. I doubt it because it says on the YouTube studio that most of the people that watch this show are in their 50s. I don't know. Here's a magazine called Chiller Theater, the magazine filled with horrible stuff. That's a nice little... ooh. Well, this magazine has things that are not viewable. There's an article about Barbara Lee, or is it Barbara Lay? I always called her Barbara Lay. I don't know why I just said Barbara Lee. But Barbara Lay was the lady that on the covers of Vampirella, the Warren magazine. No, Drew. She was she posed as Vampirella on a bunch of Vampirella magazine covers. I believe the thought was that she was going to be playing Vampirella in a movie. The movie was never made. Somewhere I've got an autograph of Barbara Lay. I mean, so they have an article about her, and yeah, here's one of the Vampirella covers. She would have been an okay Vampirella. Oh, here it explains. Hammer Films was going to make a production of Vampirella. and she signed the contract with Hammer Films to play Vampirella in 1975. And then I think Hammer Films just went under. It went under. It went out of business. So it never happened. But it's got like an article about Zachary, and it's just one of those monster magazines. I think this is from the 90s. Am I correct? Let's see. I've got all kinds of monster magazines. I mean, that's my thing, man. That's my bag. It is the 1995, yes. Sure is. That's Vampira dressed up like that, like this evil witch in the movie The Magic Sword. So you hear that Mila Nurmi plays in The Magic Sword, and you want to. That's how she looks in the movie. Yes, indeed. Here's a magazine called Good Stuff. Boy, this has got some. No, Drew, stop licking my catalogs, man. Oh, shoot. Don't do that, man. Scheiße. Some of these books have bad stuff on the back cover, and then I gotta be careful with these magazines, man. I like that they have. Stop licking everything, Drew. It's got this. I like this Thriller Club. Gotta be real careful with this magazine. They have like pictures of Betty Page in this that are. Stop, Drew. Didn't I feed you enough, man? I'll give you. I gotta feed her some more. She's going 8. She's going 8, man. Okay. Yeah, this magazine, Good Stuff. I just have this one issue, and it's issue number 4, so I don't know how many they put out of it. A lot of Betty Page pictures, a lot of them, and then, yeah, for the most part, this magazine's not viewable. It's just an amateur magazine. Man. Yeah, it's pretty much all Betty Page pictures, the whole magazine. Okay, well, it's from when? It's from the 90s. Come on, let's face it. That's when all this stuff's. Okay. Oh, I got some Marvel books in here. Here's I need to put these with the Marvel magazines. Here's Monsters to Laugh With. Funnier than ever. I have boxes of Marvel magazines, and this is supposed to be with them. That All-Star 58, first appearance of Power Girl. I know I had that damn. I mean, I bought that book in 5th grade, and it was, I showed it on an early episode of the Orloff show. And I've been racking my. It disappeared while I was in Texas. You can say it's in another box, but I've been through all the boxes, so that's all I can think, because things just don't magically disappear. So I got to think, who was in the house. It would have been, it's a book that starts with A, so it would be in the top comic box. It would be the first one you look in, and you wouldn't you have to flip very far past the Action Comics. And then if you have any comic book knowledge, man, there's only one person I can think of that was in the house that had a little comic knowledge during that time period before we left Texas. And I don't know. Anyway, the All-Star Comics 58's gone. And so I got to get a new one. And I was telling my wife this morning, and then I turn on that Comic Tom 101 this morning before work, and the first thing they show is that's a hot book, because they're speculating that James Gunn is going to put, because they're all speculators, speculating that James Gunn is going to put Power Girl into one of the new movies. This is a good magazine, Magic Theater. It says only 3 out of 10 can hack it. This is made to look like the old Castle of Frankenstein magazine. This magazine has a lot of great clip art, so you can, you have access to a photocopier. You can copy a lot of it and put it in your own zines, which I did. I was putting out a magazine myself in the 90s, just like everybody else was. This is the Psychotronic magazine. Of course, the Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film from Michael Weldon. This is great stuff. Oh, what is that? This is just people into lowbrow culture, into all the horror movies, into comic books, into hot rods, into rock and roll music. That became kind of a thing in the 90s. There were a lot of them out there that kind of came out of the woodwork. I don't know where all those people went. Maybe some, but this is Magic Theater, and when is it from? This is issue number 7. Yeah. These people are real fans of Castle of Frankenstein. You can see in one of their previous issues how much they tried to make it look like Castle of Frankenstein. Anyway, I'm mainly doing this episode just to document the snow, but you can't really even, is it even still, yeah, it's still snowing. It should be more spectacular when I wake up tomorrow. I'll try to do an episode in the morning, right at daybreak. It should be a magical winter wonderland, veritable winter wonderland. And I'm not worried about it because I don't have to go to work. So yes, indeed. All right, fantastic. What other things we got here? Here's a horror magazine. There were tons of these horror. This is called Demonique. And this is one more gore-oriented for like Fangoria type people. It's probably, yeah, a lot of gore in here. It's less 1950s kind of monster movies and more of the sadistic European horror films. And Yeah, like the Paul Naschy Fury of the Wolf Man, it's Blood on Satan's Claw. Exorcism in the 70s. And this is issue number something. Um, this came out of Los Angeles. Yeah, who cares? That's okay. Here's Deep Red. This might be late 80s, this one. Deep Red is same kind of thing. Oh, that's a great ad. These are called ad mats. There are books that you can get they're called ad mats, and they have all the different size of ads so that you can put your ad in the newspaper to advertise the movie playing at your local theater. And back then, that's how we found out what was playing. It was from looking in the newspaper. So every Friday, you would open up the newspaper and see what movies were coming out that weekend, and they had big ads. Like when Star Wars came out, it had a full page ad in the newspaper, and that was how we did. I mean, there were TV ads and radio ads, and there were movie trailers in theaters, but there was no internet, and now most people don't even ever look at a newspaper. This is by Chaz Balin, he was I think he wrote a book about horror movies. Man. Yeah, I remember these, they used to have these vinyl model kits, and there was Elvira and Freddy Krueger. I have the Elvira. I was a big fan of Elvira. This is from 1988. Yes, indeed. Deep Red. I prefer the 1960s and 1970s horror magazines. These are smaller scale magazines that you would get, I guess, at comic stores or those bookstores in or right outside malls. My friend Tom Ranoni went off to Hollywood. He worked on a couple of movies with Clive Barker, and he worked with Savini. And I remember he went to some Frightmare weekend, some horror movie convention in Dallas, and it was like, man, it's expensive to get in. It was like ridiculous. I don't know. This is a long time ago. It was like $25, or maybe it was $30 to get in. I said, Tom, I don't have that kind of money. He says, don't worry, we'll just walk in. We just walk right in. You just walk in like you know what you're doing. Don't act nervous. They said, well, that I was, hey, that's not honest. And Tom said, just watch this. He walks in, and there's Tom Savini sitting at a table, to autograph things. And he said, hey, Tom, would you tell Tom, my friend Tom was talking to Tom Savini, and he just said, hey, would you tell, my friend's nervous, would you just tell these people that we're your assistants? And he says, sure, Tom. And then we were waved in by Tom Savini. So, how about that? I like how they advertised this movie. Censored. Behind this panel is The Thing. Can you stand the horror in Godzilla versus The Thing? Imagine a newspaper ad like that. Godzilla is going to fight something so horrible we can't even show you in this newspaper ad. Can you imagine how quick you'd be heading to the movie theater if you were a kid? And when did that come out? Maybe 1969, 1970. Oh boy, those were the days, ladies and gentlemen. That it's a lot of. There's an article about Dawn of the Dead. That was they. There was a theater. There was a mall that I've talked about before in my town that I lived in, Arlington, Texas, in high school. It was called the Forum 303 Mall. It had a movie theater with 6 screens. It was called the Forum 6 Cinemas. And every weekend, Friday and Saturday, all 6 theaters in that little multiplex would play underground movies, midnight movies at midnight, obviously. And they would have always, one was always Rocky Horror Picture Show, one was always Dawn of the Dead. And then the others rotated, heavy metal, Led Zeppelin, The Song Remains the Same, was always pretty much there for the stoners. Sometimes they'd get stuff like Flesh Gordon. I don't really remember what all they'd play. But Dawn of the Dead, every week they played that in Rocky Horror Picture Show. So when I took a girl out, it's like, we need to see this movie, and I would take her to see Dawn of the Dead. And I would, if she was just couldn't stand it, then I go, well, this is me in high school. You got to understand, I'm insane. I thought, well, this girl is just not worth dating if they don't like Dawn of the Dead. I mean, they will never fully understand me if they don't love this movie, Dawn of the Dead. And then, of course, later I met this good friend of mine a few years later, and he says, yeah, I did the same thing. I take my dates to see Dawn of the Dead to test them. And I just thought, boy, we're both insane. Because some women like that, yeah, they do, but it was just not, how it is, man. Okay, Scarlet Street. This is a magazine you'd get like at Barnes and Noble. It was $5.95. That was pretty expensive. This is winter 1995. And someone put out a book about Kolchak the Night Stalker back then. I never got that book. But big articles about I Was a Teenage Frankenstein and yeah, here's a 2-page ad for Sinister Cinema. That was a good play. A lot of the movies that you couldn't get, you could order from Sinister Cinema on VHS, and they were questionable as far as whether they had truly the copyright to be, holy smoke, printing those. I see. That's crazy. That's insane. Never mind. This is a magazine I was thrilled to get when I was a kid. I remember this, man. I got this at the drugstore. Airport 1975. Where this little plane hits the 747. And it was the only copy they had, and it had a little thing on it like a booger. So I remember in 4th grade, I put a piece of tape over it so I would never touch that little brown speck that I didn't know what that was. It was probably a piece of chocolate from some moron that was handling this magazine. So I put that piece of tape over it. It's vintage tape. Here's the cast of Airport 75. One of the first movies that I saw in a theater by myself, I think. And before then, I'd always, gone to the theater with my parents or my mom. But then, she would drop me off at the theater, and I would pay for the ticket myself, which was a big deal to me, and go in and watch the movie by myself. And so that was a big deal to me. And then I saw the Towering Inferno at that same theater in San Antonio, and just something that meant something to me at the time. I liked that movie. There were the big three. There were a lot of disaster. Well, there was the Poseidon Adventure. No, it wasn't. Airport was the first disaster movie in 1970. But then the Poseidon Adventure was in 72. But I don't count that part. There was a big explosion of disaster movies like when I was in third or fourth grade. And it was a few years after the Poseidon Adventure. There was Airport 75, Towering Inferno, and Earthquake. Those three came out at the same time. And I saw Towering Inferno and Airport 75, but I couldn't see Earthquake because my mom didn't want me to go to the theater because, they were playing it in Sensurround, which was some big bass sound that they would, the sound system, they would install this sound system in the theater that would, when the earthquake happened, they'd flip the switch and turn on the Sensurround, and it would make you actually feel like you're experiencing the earthquake, like you're vibrating. And she thought it would damage my ears or something. My mom was very overprotective. And so she said, no, you're not going to see Earthquake. But I saw the other two. But to me, that was the trilogy. That was the trilogy of the big ones. And then right before, like literally maybe a week before we moved from San Antonio to Tacoma, Washington, on the outskirts of Seattle, we went to see another disaster movie. My mom and dad and myself. Whoa! And it was, it had Lauren Green, but it wasn't an American movie. It was a Japanese movie. They'd added Lauren Green in, or they hired him to play a few scenes in this Japanese movie. It was called Tidal Wave, but I think it was originally called The Destruction of Japan. Because no one knew the word tsunami, so they had to call it tidal wave. Tsunami, no one knew what that meant at that time. But anyway, it came out, I guess, the summer of 75, and we went to this theater. I think it was called the Aztec Theater in San Antonio, where my mom, who had grown up in San Antonio, she went to that theater when she was a little girl and had very fond memories about how beautiful it was. And it was a giant movie palace. And she was so sad. I remember seeing her face when we went into that theater, and we went up the beautiful stairs, and the balcony had been closed off from the rest of the auditorium so that instead of the balcony looking down on the big screen down in the main auditorium, there was a screen and a wall and a screen at the edge of the balcony. So the balcony was a separate movie theater. And so I've seen that done before in other old movie theaters or movie palaces. Movie palaces are the really nice ones. Movie theaters are just, But I've seen the balcony divided into two movie theaters. So there's the theater downstairs, and then the balconies just got slanted seats like most theaters have now, and then a screen. So anyway, I guess we went up to the balcony, which was bigger than any modern movie theater, just the balcony alone, and we saw Tidal Wave, and I was just disappointed. It's probably fun if I watched it now because I love Japanese movies, but I guess I was expecting to see an American movie. Not to be xenophobic or anything. Speaking of Japanese, here's a magazine, G-Fan. This is a Godzilla fanzine. I think it's put out by August Ragone, and does he live in San Francisco? Ooh, that's a nice painting. Look at that. Beautiful. I wonder if I could do something like that. That's from Ultraman. See, the MAT stands for Monster Attack Team. It was just what, Trump started the Space Force, but I think when he gets reelected, he should start MAT, Monster Attack Team. Look at this. This is a later issue of G-Fan. It's still being published today. It's just all about Godzilla. This is issue number 133. Originally, it didn't have color pictures, that's for sure, so this is a big upgrade. Editor and publisher J.D. Lees. I thought August Rigoni had something. Maybe he did at one time. This is from autumn of 2021. This is actually recent. That's why it looks so nice. Let's go back a little bit in time. This is summer of 2007. You see the cover. No offense if the artist is watching this, just isn't as gifted. I like the back cover with the King Kong versus Godzilla poster. How's the snow coming, man? It's not really covering much. It's coming down, but as soon as the temperature drops a little bit more, see, this doesn't have color pictures. Well, I take it back. It has a few pages of slick color. Seems like this magazine should be in every newsstand. When you go to the supermarket, this should be there. Here's spring of 2007. Man, I want to see this new Godzilla movie, Godzilla -1, but I don't know how to see it. And I hear now they're pulling it out of theaters, and then they're going to bring it back and run in a black and white print so people can feel nostalgic for the first couple of Godzilla movies that were in color. Here's a bunch of back issues from G-Fan that you can get. What are they selling them for? Not too much. You can't get the first 12 issues. Of course, that's back in 2007. It's another one from 2007. It seems like I got more of these somewhere. Oh, well. Now, this friend of mine used to put out this magazine called MAT, Monster Attack Team. And there's a story behind this. Spring 1992. Yeah, that's when I first met. Oh boy, it's a long story. I probably told it before. In 1992, this friend of mine, who was a DJ and I knew pretty well, he contacted me and said, I have a friend who's a toy collector. He's getting rid of a lot of toys. I'd like to give him your number. Is it okay? So he gave me the number of a guy named Eddie Holland. I went over to his house in Dallas. It was nothing but toys from the 1960s. He lived alone, obviously, to the present day 1990s. He was my age, which was not that old then, like 30. I was probably in my late 20s, and so was he. But you know, he had all the Migos and everything. But then he kept buying toys like G.I. Joe and stuff when, you know, the new G.I. Joe and all that stuff. When I thought, you know, I just was sticking to the 70s stuff. And he had a public access TV show called Monster Attack Team, where he showed super Japanese monster Godzilla stuff, superhero stuff like Ultraman and Kamen Rider, and it was amazing. And he hosted it with a guy named Joe Riley. I also met Joe Riley. Joe Riley was the guy that was into Ultraman, and his friend Eddie Holland, the guy I met, was into Kamen Rider. Anyway, Eddie Holland was also really, really big time into Kiss. So I got a lot of VHS, amazing quality of Kiss concerts, rare Japanese shows, because he was trading with people in Japan. He'd send them American television on tape, and they'd send back to him Japanese television with the commercials. And anyway, they did the show together. I have tapes of it somewhere. I gotta find them. And then they had a splitting up. Their friendship ended. I became friends with Joe Riley. And it was with Joe Riley. In fact, this is one of his drawings here. Joe Riley had a drawing in here. Joe Riley did a show called The Hypnotic Eye that was based on a magazine I was putting out, a fanzine like this called The Sophisticate. And so I helped him with that show. And anyway, and they were two friends that drifted apart, but I was more friends with Joe Riley because Eddie Holland moved away to Denton, and I bought my Kiss pinball machine from Eddie Holland. Eddie Holland, I lost touch with him. From what I can see on Facebook, he later joined the Navy. He's married and has some kids. He was always dreaming about going to Japan and teaching English to people in Japan. Very much a Kiss fan and a fan of Japanese culture. He was a good guy. He still is, I'm sure. But he put this magazine out, and I think he still puts one out. And he even has a Monster Attack Team YouTube channel. And see, inside this magazine, here's a Joe Riley illustration. And look at this, another one. And these are just like, these just come out. See, there's another Joe Riley illustrator. He was a wonderful illustrator. He built model kits for me. Anyway, in the Hypnotic Eye TV show, which you can see apparently on YouTube again, people put it back up. I played the voice of the Donny Osmond puppet, and I've got the Donny Osmond and Marie Osmond puppet in the other room. And Joe Riley, I got it at a thrift store, and Joe Riley restrung it, and the strings are all tied up, and I can't untangle them. So I keep thinking I need to just I feel bad about cutting the strings because. It was, Joe Riley did it. And it's like, maybe someone could untangle it. But, and the reason is Joe Riley passed away back when MySpace was still a thing. With the 2000, I think it's about 2007 Joe Riley died. Actually, I was friends with him in the 1990s. And then, he had a falling out with Eddie Holland. He kind of just stopped answering my calls, and I guess I had a falling out with him. And then 10 years later, he sends me a friend request on MySpace, and I talked with him through the texting thing on MySpace, and we agreed that we're going to go to a Universal Monsters convention the next month, and it's like everything's cool. Here's another issue of Monster Attack Team. That by then it was a much more professional, put together, kind of like a magazine you'd get for free at the supermarket on newsprint. And then, and we became friends again. And then the next morning, a friend of mine called me and said, "Did you hear what happened to Joe Riley? He passed away last night." And I said, "I just talked with him last night." So I may have been the last person that talked with him. I don't know. But he passed away. And so that's why I feel bad about cutting the strings on the Donny Osmond puppet. This is Monster Attack Team. And this was a band. You can look them up on YouTube. Sekamatu or Sekamasu is how they pronounce it in Japan. And it was like a Japanese Kiss band, except so of course my friend Eddie was like all about this band because they were like Kiss, but they were something a little different too. And because he loved Japanese culture and he loved Kiss, and that was like a combination of the two. I think I'm going to cut the strings right now, because this episode has been kind of a nothing episode, and we need something monumental and historic. Let's do that. I know where there's some scissors, so let's do that now.
prove that ghosts and apparitions are only figments of man's imagination. To show that wherever there is mystery, it's been created by human hands. And so, with that thought in mind, I bid you all welcome to the Mystery Club. Since we have important matters to consider tonight, I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the last meeting.
I second the motion, Batman.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Are there any questions from the floor? Yes, Richard.
I'm a little puzzled about something, Batman.
All right, let's see whether we can unpuzzle you. What is it?
Well, it's a little bit after 4 o'clock, and so far this snowstorm has been kind of a nothing burger. And but work has already been canceled for tomorrow, and we'll see. I'll do another show tomorrow, and see, I got the Marie Osmond puppet at a thrift store, and I got the Donny Osmond too, but they weren't strung up. So Joe made these sticks, and he strung up the Donny Osmond, and he was able to manipulate him wonderfully on the Hypnotic Eye show, but I will never in my life ever be able to untangle this. So this is a historic moment. I'm going to cut Donny Osmond's strings from the Hypnotic Eye. It makes me feel kind of bad to do this because it's something Joe Riley, the late Joe Riley, did, but these tangled strings do me no good. I can't display Donny Osmond properly as an historic artifact from the Hypnotic Eye TV show. And oh, he's strung up. He has strings going to his knees. Okay, he's now free. It's not as dramatic as me breaking open a CGC slab, but all right. So for the first time since the 1990s, Donny Osmond is no longer on. Okay. I'm a little. Let's see. I'm a little bit.